We are back live, 48 hours out from the big diversion, the big corporate diversion, the big PR extravaganza to make you think that the president's actually run things. You know, the big foreign banks engineered the derivatives crisis. They gave themselves unlimited power through Congress by terrorizing the Congress, threatening them with martial law. Now they're openly stealing all the money for themselves. You'll have to pay back in tax money. And when I talk about corporate propaganda, you know, how we didn't celebrate Halloween till the 50s, or how we didn't celebrate Christmas the way we do until going back into the 1920s with Christmas and Coca-Cola and Santa Claus. I'm not even attacking those supposed institutions. My point is that shows you how they mold your mind. That shows you how they're able to engineer societies. I mean, how did they get women to smoke cigarettes? Women had always seen it unladylike to smoke cigarettes. Well, they had the women's lib movement, and they funded them hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was millions at the time, an equivalent. And they had them go out and lead the parades, and the newspapers would publish, oh, look, they're free, they're radical, they're smoking cigarettes. Just another example of how they form your ideas. And all I'm asking people to do is to start realizing that we are living in a sea of propaganda. We are living in a sea of manipulation. We live under a completely federalized, micromanaged society. I mean, I have a stack of news articles here in front of me. Some of them are up on Infowars.com. The headline, The New Technology of Repression by Consortium News. And it goes through what Bob Woodward a few months ago talked about, these secret weapons that are as big as the Manhattan Project that our military, really the globalist military, is using in Iraq and Afghanistan. And they're now admitting what a lot of it is, something I told you about years ago. Face scanning cameras, retina scanning cameras, license plate scanning cameras, systems that track you everywhere you go, even if you cover your face by the way you walk. That is all in place here in the United States under Northcom. That is the power of oppression and tyranny that has already been set up. And all over the country, you know, you may not be aware of this, but you should ask your children in public schools and even in private schools under federal accreditation, which is through the states. They are training your children to spy on you, to tattle on you. The cartoons, the movies, the culture, it's all about being spies. They are, you know, not just selling us on a new holiday or a new style, or that you got to have bacon with your eggs. Now, that was a PR thing. Nobody ate bacon with eggs. They are now selling you to be a snitch, to be a tattletale. They are now selling you on just so many things that are horrible. But the good news is their propaganda isn't working. You get 95% in major polls or higher against the banker takeover bill, but it still happens. That's the bad news. Or 91% in the Gallup polls against open borders, but still the borders are open. Or 75% or higher against the war, but it continues. So the good news is the people are waking up. The bad news is the establishment is completely ignoring everything we're saying, everything we're doing. And they are setting up a tyranny here in the United States. You know, I was listening to another talk show earlier today on the radio, a well-known doctor, Dr. Dean Adele. We've actually interviewed him. Trey, I want to get him back on because I was nice to him the last time we had him on and then made him backpedal on a bunch of things. But this time, I'm not going to be as nice. But I want you to set him up again for an hour, please, in the next few weeks. And I heard a lady call in, and she said a few hours ago, because they rear him on the weekend here on the station we transmit out of and syndicate across the country, again, 590 AM here in Central Texas. And, you know, it's an interesting, entertaining show. I'm not even attacking the show. It's just that the tactic, we're going to your calls here in a moment after that, the tactic he uses is the one I see used by the mainstream media and people on the left and the right who all work for the same masters. The lady called in and she said, I can't find chewing gum, bubble gum, any gum that doesn't have aspartame with sugar now. And that's true. You go to a 7-Eleven or you go to a store, you can go to the grocery store, they may have 20 different types of gum. Read on the back, they all say aspartame. And it's an artificial sweetener approved in 1982 by Searle. Searle got it approved. Rumsfeld was the head of it. And she said, you know, I remember when I was in college, the former head of the EPA came and he said that, you know, on his speech, he said, I know I wouldn't feed this stuff to my family. And she said, is it true it's bad for you? And he said, no, it's nothing's wrong with it. It's wonderful. Since the internet got big in the late 90s, there's a fake email that goes around listing fake doctors and fake information, and it's all fake, and aspartame is good for you. You know, it's funny. I probably interviewed more than 50 or 60 scientists, doctors, neurologists, toxicologists. We went back and got the documents from the approval of aspartame in 1982. And so that they could get aspartame universally adopted as the new sweetener, the media falsely demonized, and lobbyists from Searle demonized saccharin, which they found if you fed rats, I think it was half their diet for something like a year. You can go pull the actual study up. Half their diet, I mean, half of what they were eating was saccharin. Just thousands of times what a human would ingest per capita for their body weight, that they got these fatty, non-cancerous, benign tumors in their kidneys. Okay? And so they demonized a artificial sweetener that actually wasn't really bad for you, comparatively. And then they got aspartame approved, known as NutraSweet or Equal as the brand names. And its patent ran out about 5 years ago. That's why now it's in tens of thousands of foods, not just a few. So it's so inexpensive now. And it's 64 times sweeter per gram than sugar. And at 87 degrees in the stomach, at 87 degrees, it breaks down into wood alcohol. And that's a fact. And I've read on air, I mean, these are from universities, the studies of when it got approved, where they gave it to rhesus monkeys, and half the baby rhesus monkeys they gave it to in their milk, was more than half of them died. And so, I mean, there's so much evidence that aspartame is an excitotoxin, is toxic, is deadly, that it'll make your head spin. And I've interviewed the medical doctors, the scientists. I've held those documents in my hand, so I'm going to get him on. And then I'm going to read him those studies. And I mean, these were FDA studies. And that reminds me of 2 weeks ago, the Food and Drug Administration came out and said, well, there's melamine from China, and it sickened 56,000 children there, killed a bunch of people, but we're saying melamine is no longer bad for you. And I've got government reports coming out now saying mercury in the shots isn't bad for you. And I even have a CBS News report here. It's up on Infowars.com. We're not going to play it, but it's a link where they have a medical doctor on. And the FDA scientist unanimously came out and said that the BPA that's in most of the plastic products you and your family, your babies drink out of, is an estrogen mimicker and very toxic. And that's why we have girls when they're 5 going into puberty. That's why we have boys that are hyper feminine. And Europe and Japan banned this stuff years ago, and there's no reason. Most plastics don't have it in it. It's just the one that they chose to put in here. And but the head of the FDA, the EPA is also saying it's bad, but this is the FDA ignores Science Advisory Panel on Poisonous Baby Bottles, BPA. And they just said, we don't care. It's going to stay in the plastic here in the United States. Now, I'm sorry, melamine will kill you, will make you sick, will attack your kidneys. BPA that leaches out of these plastics is a big problem, and it's been well known, and you just can't sit up there and say that it's not. There are thousands of studies that cell phones are giving people brain tumors from governments and universities. It's an absolute fact. It's a microwave relay system. That's why your computers go crazy when your cell phone rings. It's powerful. And it's microwaving right through your skull, and the people get the tumor right there. It's the same thing with sodium fluoride put in the water. I have all these reports about they give it to horses and cows, fluoride water. They all die, but they put it in our water. So I'm tired of the denial here, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm tired of the fact that we have a criminal eugenics elite putting this in our water and our food on purpose. Yes, it's all on purpose. Okay, your calls from Chris, Matt, Chad, George, Jawad, Joe, Jim, everybody. When we get back after this quick break, I'll continue with calls throughout this transmission. We're just trying to give you the facts. You can make up your mind. Stay with us.